when you burn somebody, a lot of evidence gets destroyed. Like people resort to burning, I think because of that, because it doesn't give out a lot of evidence when the body is found. As a filmmaker, I was working with an NGO called Aveksha, and basically they started with this idea of making a calendar on these survivors, burn survivors, and that's how I got associated with them. I was supposed to design a calendar for them, and that's how I kind of came across all these survivors, because a lot of times they are asked about their stories and they sometimes have to repeat their stories, and sometimes they don't feel comfortable talking about everything. So since I had established that kind of connection with them, I thought it will be a good idea to maybe kind of ask them these questions and get them on record. And that's how the film started. When I spoke to the survivors and the kind of violence they spoke about, it's just very inhumane. But despite of all that negative and disadvantages they have faced and the kind of situations they have been in, I think they are very resilient. It's something I really felt, and I realized I think it's also because they have kids and they have aspirations towards their kids. They want their kids to do certain things, and overall idea was, if someone is going through something like this, which is very much possible, because as data says, one woman out of 3 are going through domestic violence. So if any woman is going through something like this, they should know that there is some kind of support system, there is someone to talk to, there is some one or the other way to come out of it. They are being driven to committing suicide. I think it's the overall system that we have in our country, the whole patriarchal system that we have, where a woman is expected to adjust. Because all these women I spoke with, this wasn't the first time they attempted or tried to kind of do something about it. They tried a lot of times before, but no one helped. Either someone, like, even if they went to the police, they were told to, he's your husband, just adjust, like, you can manage, you have kids, you should look at your kids and adjust. So I think that adjustment makes, like, the whole idea of adjustment makes them feel like it's there is no other option than to. And it's also, a lot of women told me that only when they threaten the husband that they will commit suicide, they'll pour kerosene on themselves, is when he stops the violence. Like, lot of these are called accidents, which are not accidents. They are sometimes suicide. They are sometimes, even if they are suicides, they are driven to commit suicides. If we were to talk about the reasons why these things are happening, firstly is one of the reasons which is a recognized reason, is dowry. But more than that, I believe is domestic violence, for sure. That is one of the major reasons. And it's also that when we talk about domestic violence, the range of domestic violence is so wide, but we as a country don't recognize other forms of domestic violence. We are only looking at physical forms of domestic violence, but there are also mental, like that article that is mentioned in the film, the salt being less in food. See, this is something that can account to mental violence if that has been done to her every day. If someone is putting you down every day, that kind of like that becomes a mental violence. So this film is actually a part of this campaign, which is campaign by Aveksha called Up in the Flames. And this campaign basically is to advocate that these accidents are not accidents, but they are homicides, and there is, like, women are driven to doing this, or it's been done to them. And like, the reason to do this is one of the outcomes we are looking at is the Burns policy draft that has been submitted to the Karnataka government to be taken up and to be discussed and to be implemented. On paper, we have a lot of support system, like the women in marriage have support systems, but when it comes to actual execution, those support systems fail them. If I were to give examples, like, it's a very controversial thing even to mention about 498A. If I mention about 498A, the whole thing about misuse of 498A comes up, but that, I believe, is also a patriarchal notion that it's being misused. So 498A is a very progressive law. It's a preventive law from women to, like, women, so that women don't commit suicide. It's a preventive law, but it's not being used. It's underused, and because of this whole notion of misuse. And if even in case of burn, like in the case of burn victims, they don't tell the police, they don't report it as homicide. So that support system that is supposed to be there from the police and from the law, it never reaches there.